I have some beautiful, honestly, I'm choosing salmon because this is the main thing I have in the freezer right now. Beautiful Seatopia Hudson Valley steelhead. I have an interview with the folks at Seatopia. They do amazing, amazing cuts of fish. But anyways, I'm gonna try my hand at the braised salmon recipe from the All About Braising book. Now I don't have bacon to render down bacon fat to brown my vegetables, so I'm gonna use butter instead. Ideally bacon fat, but I'm using butter. But. Shut up, choose butter, it'll be good. Next, I'm gonna brown my onions, fennel seeds, celery seeds, and carrot in this butter. But you can see there's a little liquid in there. That's because I've been soaking them in the same wine that I'll use for the braise all day long. That is a Ben tactic. I don't know if it'll work out, but if you read my book, Boundless Kitchen, you know I like to experiment here. As these veggies braise, I've got salt, pepper, and garlic salt to taste. And also, you'll notice a couple of bay leaves. They're escaping. Come back in. Even though these be used for longer cook times usually, because it's an aromatic that needs a lot of time, I added it, frankly, because we had a ton of bay leaves all over the house, and I just threw them in there, because what the heck, you don't know what you know until you know it. About halfway done with the vegetable browning, adding a hefty dose of parsley. It's a little bit more fragile than the onions and the carrots, so I'm adding that halfway through. Stir that in. Okay, the vegetables have been going for about 8 minutes and they're looking nice and brown. They smell incredible. So next up, the actual wine to make up a really aromatic and flavorful braising liquid. Shout out to Dry Farm Wines. Woohoo! Organic, no herbicides and pesticides in my braised salmon. Only the best will do. So now we're going to take this wine, and I'm eyeballing, because eventually I'm gonna want enough to have the salmon slightly submerged, a little bit of the bottom of the salmon submerged. But this is about a cup and a half or two of wine, and now I'm gonna let this reduce by half. So I'm gonna keep it over heat and let it reduce by half, which is how I'm gonna get a real flavorful braising liquid. Oh, and in the meantime, I'm also toasting some of Jess's wonderful homemade bread. Because you may have noticed the other book that's out right now is that one, Artisan Sourdough, made simple. One of her handbooks, not mine. Okay, now one important step, and this is almost reduced by half, which is what I'm looking for with the wine, is preheat the oven to 375. Because eventually, once we're done with the stovetop piece, we'll be braising the salmon in the liquid in the oven. Remember that step. Otherwise, you'll not be great at time management. Okay, I don't fully understand this step, but I'm following the instructions from the braising book, and I'm pretty sure it's so you get a more flavorful braise with adequate liquid is you're supposed to add another half cup of wine or so once you have simmered off that original wine. So I'm gonna let this simmer now for another 6 or 7 minutes. Complex recipe. So complex. Oh. Got the Greenfield family logo pepper grinder. Only the best will do. Now our salmon fillets are going to go gently into the braising liquid, skin side down, and ideally you want about a third of your meat covered with the liquid, so don't reduce it too much. There we go. Whew, that's a tight fit. They barely all fit. They're in there, like sardines, but bigger. Show you a little tip I learned from the book, the All About Braising book. For better moisture, cover that bad boy. I should probably turn off the flame before I do this. With parchment paper, right? And then put your lid on, and that'll hold in the moisture. Now we slide this bad boy in the oven. Slide this in here. We're going 375 degrees until about 15 minutes or so. Depends on how much doneness you want. That Seatopia stuff is like sashimi grade. I usually go medium rare tops on it. And interestingly, I got this from the book, so it's not bastardized cooking. It said discreetly, not kidding, it literally says this. Discreetly, cut it into the thickest part of the fillet and peek to see if it is translucent. I don't know what that word means. Opaque on the outside, still translucent towards the center. Use a thesaurus and figure out what that means. I don't know. In case you're wondering what I prepared as a side, in addition to some lovely toasted sourdough bread, I've got a roasted pumpkin seed with fresh raspberry from our garden, sliced cucumber and tomato that I've been marinating in a white balsamic vinaigrette, and olive oil all day. So this will be pretty good. You can also use sesame oil for this one. All right, I've rescued my salmon from our braising skillet. And this is a final step that is optional, but recommended, is I have another skillet reserved here, and this is how I'm gonna make my actual sauce for the salmon. It'll be the final drizzle when I serve the salmon. So now we're going with like more of the type of stuff you do if you were at a restaurant and wanted a really good finish, didn't want to bring a big ugly skillet full of fish out to the table. If you're just cooking this home style, you could honestly just stop at that last step, serve a skillet in the middle of the table and be good. What we're gonna do is I'm patting on these vegetables to get the last little bit of wonderful liquid out. You can still eat these vegetables, I mean, they're fine, I kinda like them. And then I'm gonna add a little extra butter, about half a tablespoon of butter, to my leftover braising liquid, and we're gonna reduce this until it's a nice, thick sauce. Final step is I'm taking this final lovely braising liquid that I've reduced down, and this is the sauce that I'm gonna drizzle over the salmon, and we are ready for dinner.